So this is Van Electric Ghost, and we're talking about a couple of things today. This performance that we did on the weekend on Saturday, the 11th of January, 2020. So we call that Without You for 3 Years, the Go LiveCast performance. We just got a Roland Go LiveCast device, which allows you to do a couple of things. It allows you to be able to do 2 cameras, which we haven't tried yet. We've only been using one. By being able to use another camera remotely as a satellite camera, which we're going to work on. We have to get another tripod. And then you can have like a second camera angle on your live performance. You can also embed text. You can embed photos. You can switch camera angles. Though we've had some trouble with actually doing camera angles live, so we got to find out if we're just not doing it right. And you can do voiceovers and use an XLR mic and then input sound from other places. Right now, they only allow you to take music from Apple Music. I hope they expand that to other services like Spotify and Tidal and SoundCloud and other places, because a lot of our music is not, well, it's on Apple, but we don't have a subscription to Apple. So that's kind of limiting. It would be cool if they do that. And so we get into the performance itself. We like to do these live performances from our studio using our gear. In this particular performance, we are focusing on our Moog GrandMother and the Moog drummer from another mother, the DFAM. It's basically just a live romp, just playing with knob functions on the DFAM and the GrandMother. And we've got the DFAM drum action machine coming through controlled voltage into the gate in of the GrandMother, and we have a signal going into the multipliers and then bringing it into the VCA. And then we're also bringing, using the VCA amount and the LFO on the GrandMother, and then tweaking the GrandMother and the DFAM as we play with knob per function, kind of real-time manipulation of these synths. And it's kind of what you do with an analog synth that makes it unique than from digital equipment and from DAWs. Is that in a live setting, you can do what I'm just saying. You can do this performance in the live video that we'll do a link to that we did streaming on this device is on Facebook Live, and we'll put the Facebook Live link on that. So that's interesting what we're able to do with these performances, and it's just kind of cool to be able to have our music out there on the web in real time. And that's just something that we enjoy to do. And we just like giving our fans a way to see us in this way. That's kind of complicated, but it's just a cool device to create songs. And one of the things that came out of this podcast, it's a 41-minute podcast. And then one of the things we're able to do is go back and listen to snips and say, oh, I want to work on this idea. So by playing live, it's kind of like when you're a musician, you have a jam session with your band to come up with tunes, and that's kind of how you do it. And that's what we like to do in this kind of world of music, and it's just something we've been able to do for a while, and we think it's interesting to use the kind of social media stage to be able to develop new material. And so this particular song was able to, one of the songs that we created from this session is a song that we call Tip Your Toe In or Drown in the Deep End. And it's this kind of idea that Josephine Electric, the lead singer of Van Electric Ghost, is, very enamored with her this partner. And, you got to tip your toe into that passion or you drown in it. And that's the idea of this song. And the whole performance called Without You for 3 Years is talking about the loss of this partner that Josephine had. It's still kind of like a stain on her soul. It's still really affected her a lot. And so the tip your toe in is just another kind of metaphorical reference to like passion and love. That you can kind of be almost there, or you can totally be overwhelmed. And it's kind of like with Josephine, there's like a lot of extremes in her character where she, shows that she's this dominatrix, kind of like very alpha female in charge of her life. But then sometimes she gets this rooftop dude that somehow it is like oil and water and it's like fire and ice. It just, when that mix of personalities comes together, it's not good for Josephine. And we kind of dipped into this idea of using this concept for a while. And the Moog GrandMother is just an amazing machine. What we've got also very interested in, because we use these analog synths, that Korg has brought back the ARP 2600, which is a really awesome sound design machine. For those of you who don't know the history of that machine, it's one of the first like portable synths besides the EMS VC3. It's in a suitcase synth like a Buchla, but bigger than a Buchla, smaller than the Moog modulars at the time, and ahead of the Mini Moog. I think it's 71. And so it's kind of before the Model D. And people were looking for synths that they could bring on stage. And Edgar Winter has a really good documentary on the history of this machine. And Edgar Winter talks about how he came up with the Frankenstein. He was trying to find a synth that he could bring on stage other than being in the studio. And this synth, the ARP 2600, because the keyboard wasn't a separate connection. Well, it was separate from the synth. And he actually strapped it on like a guitar. And because it had another line, he must have got somebody gave him a custom cable, because the original cable was kind of short, to be able to link it to the 2500. And then what you can do is the cool thing about 2500, it has a very clear workflow, because it was going to be a teaching tool. You know, Berkeley got it, Harvard got them, all these music schools all over the world got them. And there's like what Moog had done with the 33s and the Model 55s and the System 1s and 2s. And the fact that you could, you could see the workflow. It was very clear. And then he also, what was really cool, which we've seen Arturia do, is have sliders instead of knobs. And a lot of synth manufacturers should think about that, because, and maybe there's a patent on it or not, but Arturia is doing the sliders. But the thing about a slider is Edgar Winter talked about it, and I think Pete Townsend used it on Who Are You and the Relay. We'll talk about that more. In that, because you have a slider, you can have a visual representation of what the synth is doing. And the System 1M has that sliders for its envelopes, which is really cool. But this synth has sliders for everything. The oscillators, like the LFO, the VCF, the VCA, everything's a slider, which gives you a really cool visual representation of what your patch is. And you can kind of, by feel, get to it easier than a dial, because human beings, are kind of visual, and the dial is not as easy to see, because you have to go see you have to really look at a dial if you're doing a live performance. So I'm surprised that more synth manufacturers don't have this kind of structure. I think going forward, a modern synth should be created that has that. And I know that UDO Super 6 seems to have a lot of sliders, but it still has a lot of knobs too. But this slider idea is really cool. I mean, it probably takes a lot of landscape, and that's why you go with the dials. And so when you're trying to do the packaging, you probably can't do it. But again, the Edgar Winter performance of Frankenstein, this machine gave him that thing. This synth is the voice of R2D2. And what was cool with this synth is people who sound designers and great artists like Pete Townsend found different ways to use it. For R2D2, it was actually the voice of the sound designer that was used to go through the envelope follower to create R2D2 with a microphone. And then for Who Are You in the relay, Pete Townsend actually had his guitar going into this synth and going into the envelope follower, which we don't see a lot of envelope followers on modern synths. I don't know if Moog ever had them or Buchlas have them, but I've never seen one before until I see this new recreation of the 2600. So there's some cool stuff in the old analog world. It's got the spring reverb, just like the GrandMother, which came from originally the big Moog modulars had that. But I would try to tell the kids that are really into just doing soft synths, the movie Aliens was done with this machine. R2D2's voice was done with, Pete Townsend used it, Edgar Winter used it, Stevie Wonder used it, Herbie Hancock used it. A lot of these synths, famous synths, like the Dream Machine, the GX1, used by Stevie Wonder. And there's a lot of iconic analog synths. And you can get replications, but replications can never match the original signal flow and the creativity they have with being able to do real-time changes on these machines. Because that's really the heart of these analog synths. Because you can do the real-time changes and you can kind of play them like a jazz player or experimental jam band, you can really affect your performance. And it feels like like you're playing a Les Paul, or you're playing like a Hammond B3, or playing a Steinway piano, because you can actually get responses that are not just like digital button pressing. It feels organic. It feels like the instrument is responding to what you want to do once you understand how it works. And when you have these synths and they have 50 different places to input, it just, as an artist, it gives you a big palette. And I think that's what, as a synthesizer player or a sound designer, the one thing that's great about synthesizers is all the choices you have. It gives you this limitless creativity. And so I hope you enjoy this performance and you see what we did with, I would say, try to find the point in the longer broadcast where we picked out Tip Your Toe In. The other thing we did, which might be harder to figure out how we did tip your toe in, is we took maybe like a 5-minute snippet of the performance where we found the groove that we liked for that tip your toe in, and we brought it into the Morphage sampler from Make Noise. And then we ran that sample back into the GrandMother and used the spring reverb and used the high pass filter and the low pass filter. And we used the attenuator to do negative and positive affecting of the high pass and low pass filter, which gave us some really interesting stuff that wasn't in the original performance. So you could probably maybe pick those things out. And that's the kind of stuff you can do with analog synths. So I hope you like this performance, and let us know if you're a band and you want to be interviewed. Give us a ring and we'll talk to you later. Thank you very much.
Gonna tip your toe in, gonna drown in the deep end. Gonna tip your toe in, know that you're not a friend. Know what it means to an end. 3 years later, I'm still hung up on a rooftop, dude. One that brought me there, kept me down in loot. There's only one way to be, and that's gonna be rude. There's only one way to be, it's not a lie, it's the truth. Gonna tip your toe in, gonna drown in the deep end. Know that you're not a fan, you're more like a means to an end. Gonna tip your toe in, you're gonna drown in the deep end. You're more like you're not a friend, you're more like a means to an end. 3 years later, I step in the house, still hung up on that dude. One that never I could really tell the truth. One that just wanna screw, one that's permanently rude. Every weekend got the X on, every weekend at the X on, every weekend put the X on, and you get to hit the Vex on. You're gonna tip your toe in, gonna drown in the deep end. You know that you're not a friend, and there ain't no bridges to mend. Gonna put your hex on, you gotta get the Vex on. I gotta gas at the Exxon. You're gonna get out on the street. Gonna put your hex on. Gonna get your Vex on. Cars all wrecks on. No point going to Exxon, yeah. Gonna tip your toe in. Gonna drown in the deep end. You're a villain, you're not a friend. You're a villain and you're gonna end. means to an end. Getting at the Exxon, and with your car is a wreck, son. And with the wicked got the Exxon, and you don't look at me for the friend, son. Gonna tip your toe in, you're gonna drown in the deep end. No offense to men, it's all pretend. Lately as later, still hung up on a rooftop, dude. The only thing you left me with is being or decadent and rude. Gonna dip your toe in, gonna drown in the deep end. Every loss is not a bend, every loss is a means to an end. Gonna have the Exxon, and what your car is wrecked, son. Every weekend put the hex on, and you know that it is at the end of the song.